So you won't tell me, huh? Well, there's another way to get it out of you. I passed your razor.
Psst, check out my Patreon. It's Mojo time again. Today we've got Toy Ploy. Not to be confused with Ploys R Us from the original. Trust me, other than toy rhyming with ploy, these episodes actually have almost nothing to do with each other whatsoever. Honestly, this episode is quite the mixed bag for me when it comes to my overall impressions of its sense of humor. There are some things I really like and some things I really don't. But thankfully, making this review and writing down my thoughts helped me get a better grasp on how I truly feel about this episode. With that said, let's just dive right in.
Monday.
Who are you? Are you the narrator's replacement or something?
Tuesday.
You do realize there's already somebody else that could be doing these time cards, right?
Wednesday.
Clearly, he was better at this job too. This one doesn't even have any witty remarks or bad puns to share with us.
Thursday.
Yep, just gonna be bland and state the name of the day without anything creative attached to it.
Friday.
Wow. This is so boring. So as you can see, the episode opens up with a Monday title card and Mojo announcing his plans to destroy Townsville for the umpteenth time. Unfortunately for him, the Powerpuff Girls show up and put a stop to his plans like they always do, going so far as to actually demolish his fancy robot contraption and kick his butt into the next day. Literally. Remember how the original series featured the girls doing a bunch of different heroic tasks for each day of the week in the episode Uh-Oh Dynamo? Well, imagine the opposite for Mojo, and that's basically what we have here. Each day, he's attempting a different evil plan, and each time, the Powerpuff Girls show up and get in the way of his nefarious actions. One day, he ruins a kid's sandcastle, one day he holds up a coffee store, and one day, he even attempts to litter.
Let the litter apocalypse begin!
Littering.
As this weekly gag goes on, it picks up in pace, so I guess you could say next we get a montage of Mojo fulfilling the rest of the days of the week for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. At the very least, I appreciate the acceleration in the editing that is present here. Each hit that Mojo sustains occurs sooner than the last, to the point that Fridays feels almost instant. It keeps things moving so that the punchline doesn't overstay its welcome. Not to mention how each plan gets more absurd than the last. Now, I don't think it beats out Mojo attempting to beat the girls with a wooden stick, but it still works nonetheless. One thing I absolutely love about this is that it's purely the girls beating up Mojo for committing crimes and evil schemes. No strings attached. Mojo attempts to do something evil and the girls stop him. Simple as that. I very much appreciate this episode for giving us that much. Though, I don't know if presenting the bare minimum is worthy of a compliment, but hey. That night, Mojo decides that he needs to come up with a more sophisticated plan so that he can take advantage of the girls' individual weaknesses in order to destroy them. So, after some careful consideration, he sneaks into the girls' home and steals each one of their beloved stuffed animals. Octi, Monsieur Ducky, and President Dinosaur. Okay. You can clearly tell which one of these came from the original series and which ones were made for the reboot. Good lord. Like, why the need for the excessive adjectives? Why? Octi doesn't have one. Why'd you give it to the other two? Why not just have it be Ducky and Dino or something? Well, with these toys within his clutch, Mojo whips out his pasteurizer. And no, there's not a single pun involved with pasteurized milk or anything like that. It just allows him to see into the past, and that's it.
Your razor, which will show me the past.
Really, I mean, considering you have past as a prefix, and your device also ends in riser, which could be associated with some kind of mechanical device. No, I never would have guessed that it's a device that lets you see into the past. I really never would have guessed that, Mojo. You really had to spell it out for me and the rest of the audience, because apparently we're too stupid to understand the clever wordplay that you've come up with for this specific device that makes perfect sense within the canon of the Powerpuff Girls universe. There's also this drawn-out gag prior to him beginning to interrogate these toys where he tries to line up his machine with the duck, but it's just not working out, so after a series of button mashing, he actually ends up settling on investigating the dinosaur's mind instead. Oh, by the way, did I mention that in order for him to see the past, he hooks these toys up to his contraption, and then they're given a voice and a conscience so that they're able to talk to him as these clips are being shown?
This is not about the Buttercup.
No, is it not?
No! Tell me her weakness!
Fine, you petulant primate!
Because yeah, that's exactly what it does. I don't know how Mojo came up with this idea, but it's so contrived it's not even funny. Listen, this plot sounds ridiculous at first, but you know how the reboot is prone to making up the rules of its world as it goes because it clearly has no idea what it's doing? Well, this here is another case of that.
Let's get this over with.
Hi, Mojo! How are you?
As if magically getting transported into the realm of Phantasm Chasm wasn't already out of place enough in the Powerpuff Girls universe. The ability for inanimate stuffed animals to talk takes the cake. The irony of it too is that if they were sentient due to a source of magic, it'd make total sense. Have him show up and make them come alive or something. But no, it's science that gifts these stuffed snuggle toys with the ability to communicate with Mojo like any ordinary human being. Look, I get science can do a lot of great things, but this kind of crosses a line with me within the context of this show. And considering I've been following the rules of the world of the Powerpuff Girls 2016 reboot for, I don't know, 75 episodes now, I have a pretty good idea when something feels out of place. Oh my god, has it really been that many? If I can get more technical for a second on why this just doesn't sit right with me, allow me to point to the very idea of animation itself. Animation has the capability of bringing things to life in ways inconceivable here in the real world. Toys in Toy Story are household items in Beauty and the Beast, for example. It goes without saying that the defining characteristic of animation is motion. These toys that Mojo brings to life provide no indication of motion whatsoever. They don't breathe, they don't blink, their lips don't move, they can't wander around the free space on screen. Look, I'm not saying these are required for something to be considered alive, but the fact that they just float there, motionless, while a disembodied voice plays through this machine, it just doesn't work. There's a disconnect here. Like I said, giving these toys a conscience, but not like bringing them to life, only meeting it halfway, it doesn't fit this show. It's the same reason why dogs are sentient in some episodes, but not in others. Why are motorized vehicles sentient sometimes, but not always? The show doesn't have any idea what it's doing. It doesn't know what it wants to do. It doesn't have any rules for its world. It just makes shit up as it goes. How would I have changed this? Well, simple. I'd have Mojo bring them to life by zapping them with some sort of ray. Easy peasy. Then I'd give them a moving mouth and maybe blinking eyes to indicate that, oh hey, Mojo is communicating with something that's alive. Here's a fun fact for you though. Each one of the girls' stuffed toys that Mojo captures didn't originate in this episode. In actuality, all 3 of them are featured in the intro of the show of all things. Yeah, you know that random dinosaur that sits behind Blossom at the very start of every episode? Well, that's where he's from. Same goes for Buttercup's duck and Octi, I mean, that's a given with Bubbles. So that's pretty neat, right? But now allow me to balance out a positive with a negative.
I have known Blossom for many years, decades even.
So, just like with Silico, the girls have been around for, quote, many years, and yet Bliss was made 10 years ago, so how long ago was many years exactly? Because I swear this show's sense of time is so unclear, and it doesn't even make any sense. And guys, I can't even make up what happens next. This is very much real.
Ever alert and vigilant. Blossom is always ready to defend Townsville.
Leave it to the reboot to reference what's relevant in current events and not give a single crap about timelessness. Guess going for the low-hanging fruit seemed more optimal instead of being creative. Could have done so many other presidents from the past, but nah, unsurprisingly it's the current one at the time of this show's production. Also, no offense to the person who did this impersonation, but it's not very good if I'm being honest. It's really not.
She is a straight A student, working hard to juggle her studies with the life of a superhero.
Look, I don't even like who they're referencing, but was this really necessary? I know this was intentional. The doll's name is President Dinosaur of all things. And furthermore, why would you make Blossom love a doll inspired by said person? Doing so then implies Blossom relies on said person and supports and cares about said person. Now, I'm not about to get political in this review because this is not the time or place for that. This is meant to be entertaining and enjoyable for people. But if you're supposedly mocking this person, why are you making Blossom adore them so much? The sheer incompetence of this show and its attempts to preach its progressive messages always astonishes me because it fails every single time. But anyways, Blossom is late for her physics class.
What's the force of gravity on an object moving down?
It's negative 9.8 meters per second squared.
Very good.
Wrong. Not this time. Not this time. You're wrong. Not this time.
That's incorrect. That's wrong. Force equals mass times acceleration. The answer Blossom gave was the acceleration due to gravity, not the force. I know what I'm talking about. I've got a degree. No, but sarcasm and satire aside, that is seriously incorrect. The acceleration due to gravity is negative 9.8 meters per second squared, and that's only true on Earth. It varies depending on the mass of the body you're standing on. For example, on the moon, the acceleration due to gravity is only negative 1.6 meters per second squared because it's far less massive than the Earth. I'm sure plenty of you watching already knew this, but hopefully I taught a few of you something new today. Now you can go tell all your friends that Professor Shadowstreak is both educational and entertaining. Admittedly, I do like the sheer ridiculousness of Blossom constantly punching the shit out of this Herodactyl. Seriously, it happens so many times that it genuinely does become comedic.
A helpful sister. And a caring daughter.
So back with Mojo once again, he questions what all this has to do with anything, but then the doll shows a clip of Blossom admitting that it's really hard balancing everything she has to do with being a leader, which Mojo relates to with having to manage all of his rays.
The death ray, shrink ray, ray from accounting,
I'm not sure about some of these deductions, Mr. Mojo.
and the goodbye ray.
Okay, that was genuinely good. I actually really love that. Just imagining that Mojo killed this guy off screen, that was very well done. But seriously, he refuses to exploit Blossom's weaknesses because it hits too close to home? That's so lame. Like, that isn't something a supervillain should be saying. At least not Mojo of all villains. The Amoeba Boys, sure, but not Mojo. Well, as I'm sure you've noticed, this is another one of those 3 mini-stories inside one episode, similar to Memory Lane of Pain or, hell, even The Secret Life of Blossom. Yeah, haven't mentioned that episode in a while, have I? Next up is Buttercup's toy, Monsieur Ducky. I don't really see how a rubber duck suits Buttercup, but get ready because this one's a doozy.
It was on the beaches of Normandy. I came from a long line of brave, intrepid, adorable ducks. Everything was fine until the war.
Alright, so let's get the historical backstory out of the way really quickly. So the duck is French. It was made on the beach of Normandy during World War II and ended up surviving the war only to wash up on shore for Buttercup to find. None of the other details matter. All you need to know is the duck has plenty of great memories with Buttercup, just like how the dinosaur had with Blossom. In conclusion, the duck says Buttercup has a softer side, which Mojo once again relates to, and says he can't capitalize on her weakness either. So we're off to Bubbles' Octi to see what he says about all this. Pardon me for not spending more time on Buttercup's toy, but honestly, I couldn't care less about anything it had to say. Easily the most drawn out and uninspired of the 3. Bubbles, on the other hand, takes a completely different approach. There's no backstory for Octi, and thank God for that, because I would have hated to see how this show ruined the most precious thing in Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, it just dives straight into Bubbles' weaknesses.
Oh, she doesn't have any weaknesses.
I figured.
Except that she's very gullible, claustrophobic, agoraphobic, afraid of the dark, way too trusting, ditzy.
You know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like Octi could have had a more fitting voice. Not to say Kate Micucci's bad, but really it doesn't sound anything like what Octi should sound like. And yeah, I mean, what Octi says is true. Bubbles is kind of the weakest link, but damn, way to just make Octi an untrustworthy jackass. Seriously? Octi is Bubbles' source of comfort with all of her problems. She relies on him for everything. Why make him out to be such an unforgiving, blunt douchebag who will rat her out to anyone without even asking? This just screams incompetence. Like, how does one miss that point? You got it right for the duck and the dinosaur, but the doll that's been established to be very special to Bubbles for an immense amount of time is the one that talks shit behind the owner's back? I didn't think it was possible, but the show literally found a way to fuck up Octi's character. Like, wow, that's so disappointing. It was at least cool to see the pimento allergy reference to Power Up Puffball episodes because, you know, that one was one of the few good ones, but that doesn't make up for this. Octi even just straight up goes and tells Mojo her biggest weakness of all. She's too nice to people. Why? Why write Octi this way when it completely goes against everything he's supposed to represent? This show, 75 goddamn episodes in, continues to blow me away with how little care was put into making this, and how incompetent it truly is. It is remarkable just how atrocious these episodes are. I think it goes to show that we are this far in and I'm still finding new terrible things about it. Like, I'm still reviewing the show because there's more garbage. It just keeps going and going and going, and it never stops. It never just stops being crap. It just keeps adding more shit to the pile.
One time, she even gave a gift to this guy who was always super mean to her just because it was his birthday and everyone else forgot about it!
Let me guess. It's for Mojo? Yep, it's for Mojo. How predictable. So the episode concludes with Mojo returning the dolls to the girls and going to bed with his stuffed cow, planning to destroy the girls another day. So, in conclusion, there were some funny moments that I really liked. But they ruined Octi, so I don't like the episode. And that's all she wrote.